All right, welcome to the Pig and a Pickle Crew Show on a Wednesday night. Call-in show. Kev's in the house. Good to see everybody. We are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. Thanks to Marin Auto Glass for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. The link is in the description. Use that promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. And we're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles in Monterey. Call Anthony Catania, 831-521-5264. Kev, what's going on, man? How's your Wednesday going? How's life in San Luis Obispo?
It is great right now. I'm sorry I had to miss the last call-in show. I had finals, just a crazy schedule on Thursdays. Had a lot of finals lined up on Thursday, and I just couldn't do the call. I couldn't do the call-in show last week, which was unfortunate because there was a lot of Niners news. There's a little bit less this week, but I'm chilling right now. All finals are done. I'm just living the life right now.
Look at you. You've already, I called you on Saturday, or was it Sunday? I called you on Sunday, which was St. Patty's Day, and I felt like I got a drunker version of you. You seemed kind of loud and boisterous. Couldn't really keep any thoughts going. How was your Sunday, Kev? How was St. Patty's Day?
St. Patrick's Day is a big celebration here at Cal Poly. They go pretty hard. I'll just say that they go pretty hard here on St. Patrick's Day. But yeah, a lot of fun. But this week, I finally got to dig into some Niners stuff. Last week, I felt like I was an outsider looking in because I didn't have the time to do the research on all the Niners players they acquired. I started doing that this week. I want to talk about one player that they signed particularly, but yeah, so excited to be back.
There you go. Stark says, Larry, the brisket chili is spot on. Pig and a pickle. Thank you, Starks. See, Starks and I, we've made up. We're civil. On the goal line says they do trimesters at Cal Poly. St. Patty's and Chico is insane.
Yeah, it's a semester. It's a quarters or trimester. Yeah, quarters, but yeah, trimester. They say quarters because there's a summer quarter, but that's optional. So there's 4 quarters technically. But yeah,
we're getting this question as well out of the chute. Gosos, what's up with the Shohei Ohtani scandal? Well, I don't know how much you guys have read about this, but I was just reading a story about it on The Athletic before I came on. But yeah, there's a major scandal going on with Shohei Ohtani, and the Dodgers have fired Ohtani's interpreter, Ippei Muzahara, amid a massive theft allegation. This is a huge story. Andy McCullough, Fabian Ardaya, Sam Blum, Britt Caroli, they're all writing this together for The Athletic. The Dodgers fired Ippei Mizahara, the interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, after Ohtani's reps accused Mizahara of engaging in a massive theft using the player's money to place bets with an illegal bookmaker under federal investigation. So we're going to hear a lot more about this. I mean, my goodness, according to what I've read here, the accusation by a guy named Burke Bretler followed an inquiry from the LA Times. The newspaper learned Ohtani's name surfaced in an investigation of an Orange County resident named Matthew Boyer, who Mizahara, 39, placed bets with Boyer, according to the newspaper. But Mizahara and Ohtani are really, really tight, and it's kind of not plausible that Mizuhara could have this many connections to major gambling, and Ohtani knows nothing of it. So let's just say this. There's going to be a major investigation. There's going to be all kinds of revelations along the way. And right now, it doesn't look good for Shohei Ohtani. I mean, I know people would say, well, no, you're making more of this than there is. And maybe I am. We'll find out in time. But if you had a close personal friend that, I mean, I'm talking about a close personal friend. This guy quit his job to like follow Ohtani around during the pandemic. These guys are really, really tight. They were taking pictures with their wives as recently as like 2 days ago, in and around the Dodgers traveling party for their opening series to Seoul, South Korea against the Padres. So, you know, Ohtani obviously is just in year one of a 10-year, $700 million contract, $680 million of that deferred. And Mizuhara has worked with Ohtani since he debuted with the Angels in 2018. They have a relationship which dates back to the Nippon Ham Fighters of the NPB, and it's a very close relationship. So I don't know if it's going to be. It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure Ohtani's like going to say, "I know nothing. I know nothing of his gambling habits," but I don't know if that's plausible, really, when you think about how connected he is to this interpreter. So the interpreter has been fired. There is an investigation. The Athletic is all over it. We're going to hear more about it, I guarantee you, in the days, weeks, and months ahead. All right, so there you go.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
There you go. That's the little side trip at the beginning of our Niner extravaganza.
Was he betting? Do you know if he was betting on Dodgers games, or do we not?
No, I don't. I don't know who was betting, and I don't know what they were betting on. But I do know that this guy was heavily wrapped up in it, and he's very, very close to Shohei. So what did Shohei know about this? You know, is Shohei involved in this in any way, shape, or form? I mean, this could be a huge, this is the biggest name in the game today, caught up in a ugly gambling scandal that at this point does not appear to snag him in it, but who knows? We shall see. All right, let's get to the Niner thing because we are only going for a short amount of time tonight. And Kev, the way this goes on Wednesday nights is Kev comes up with 3 or 4 or 5 topics for me, and then we open up the phone lines. Now, we've already put the phone line connector in there in the chat, so it's in there if you want to jump in early. We're going to go for exactly no more than an hour tonight. We also have this one from Frank Tom Ocean, who says he's been a member for a month. He said Kruger plus Warriors basketball equals Great Wednesday. Do you guys think they were going to be heavy? Do you think we're going to go heavy O-line in the draft? If we protect Purdy, his numbers will be even better. I do think they'll probably go heavy O-line in the draft. So there you go. And then we have this one. Too much sauce. Can you do the Trent Baalke impersonation, please? You know, too much sauce. I don't like to be pushed around. But for you, I'll say right now the Niners are looking for guys with healthy ACLs. And I'm looking for guys who have torn their ACL. So the Niners, and though I did inquire about Aiyuk, and man, I'd like Aiyuk a little bit more if he'd had that ACL. But
already got Armstead.
Got Armstead. He's been properly injured. So there you go. All right, Kev, fire away. Topic number 1.
So, biggest topic right now in Ninerland is Brandon Aiyuk. There was obviously reports about the Steelers and the Jaguars. I personally think the Jaguars one was a little bit more interesting because they named what the package was, apparently, or reportedly being a number 17 in Zay Jones. I wanted to dive into a little about just the overall cost of the room, because I was looking into this and it kind of shocked me where the Niners are right now. They obviously signed Juwan Jennings, or they re-signed him. They tendered him the $4.9 million tender. So now he'll be on the roster. But the Niners have a big decision to make with Brandon Aiyuk. Right now, today, with Brandon Aiyuk being on a $14 million deal, his 5th-year option, the Niners they're looking at the second most expensive wide receiver room in the NFL right now. If they were
nearly 50 million, right?
right,
14, 28, and whatever you said, Juwan's getting 5.
yeah. If a reasonable deal right now for Brandon Aiyuk is $24 million. That would be a 4-year, $24 million deal would be about what Brandon Aiyuk deserves, what he'd get. That would put them at the high
24 million per year.
4-year, 24 million or what's the AYY or AAV. That would put them at 66 or that would put them at $61 million. That would be the highest in the NFL by 8 million. For a team that doesn't pass the ball that much. And if you include George Kittle in the mix, they're at 66 million right now, which is the second highest. And if they pay Aiyuk 24 million, they're looking at 76 million, which would be 13 million more than any other team in the NFL for the receiving group. So we're looking at a super expensive receiving group for a team that they throw the ball, but they're not. It's not the Patrick Mahomes offense. It's a run first scheme. So I guess the question is Aiyuk too rich for the 49ers to extend this season? And what would you do with Brandon Aiyuk?
Well, I mean, it's such a tough situation because you've already paid Debo. Now you've already paid JJ. He wants to wait for the market to kind of reveal itself. Wow. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. They're 32nd in the NFL in pass attempts. Are they really going to spend $50 million on Aiyuk? I think the Aiyuk thing is going to get too rich for their blood, and they're going to wind up trading him. That'll be my guess. And maybe doing an Armstead Buckner thing where they trade him and draft a receiver. I think it could happen. I love Aiyuk. I think he's terrific, but the guy had 3 catches in the Super Bowl, 3 catches in each playoff game. The wide receiver position is incredibly deep year after year in the draft. You can get some really good. It's not like they can't get a receiver. If they wound up with a mid-first round pick, they might be able to get a great receiver. I mean, do we know for sure that Brandon Aiyuk's going to be better than Brian Thomas or Xavier Legette or one of these? We don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe he is. Right now he is, but there's no guarantee that he for sure will be a great receiver. I mean, I'd rather see them sign him and move off of one of the other receivers,
right?
To be completely honest, but I don't think that's viable. I don't think that's possible.
No, I 100% agree. It's not Aiyuk. Aiyuk isn't the problem. It's not like, it's not like you're saying, I don't want Aiyuk anymore. Aiyuk is the guy that you want, but you can't get rid of Debo. Debo's money's not going anywhere. So the question really isn't, do you want to keep Aiyuk or not? I mean, I guess that is kind of the question. And I think what will really end up happening is that Aiyuk's just going to be on his 5th-year option this year, and they're going to wait to re-sign him till next year. But the real question is, if you're the 49ers, are you willing to pay $76 million for your receiving group? $76 million, $13 million more than any team in the NFL. That's ridiculous. That
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense.
Right.
But if you move Aiyuk the way you moved DeForest Buckner, you better make sure that the receiver you go for is not Kinlaw. Otherwise, you've hurt your football team dramatically. And if the Niners hurt their football team dramatically, they won't win a Super Bowl. Right. So they're not going that good. They're not going so good where they could hurt their team dramatically. And they took the Trey Lance bullet. They traded 3 picks for Lance. He wound up being a bust. They found Purdy, so they saved themselves, but they also lost 3 first-round picks. Well, they found a way to kind of get by it. They didn't win the Super Bowl, but they found a way to still get to a Super Bowl. If they swing and miss on this Aiyuk thing and trade him for a pick, turn that pick into a player. That player becomes just a ordinary player. They've hurt themselves and they probably have eliminated their chances of winning a Super Bowl in this run. So this is a very important move.
Right.
It's not like, oh well, yeah, just move Aiyuk and just take whatever receivers on the board and hopefully it'll be as good. It's like, no,
No,
you
I
better
know.
freaking know who you're going with. And I've done a deep dive on these receivers.
And
the guys who are in the first round are Brian Thomas from LSU, Keon Coleman from Florida State, Xavier Legette from South Carolina, Adonai Mitchell from Texas, Xavier Worthy from Texas, Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. Those are the 6 half dozen receivers that they would be staring at most likely. I got to think Malik Neighbors and some of the other, the very top of the receiver core, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. Those guys, probably going to, maybe you can throw Lad McConkey into that mix. If you really like Lad McConkey. I personally don't. I mean, that would be a huge, huge mistake if they traded Aiyuk for a pick and then took Lad McConkey.
Well, they're not even the same receiver. Lad McConkey's like a slot. He's an NFL slot receiver. He's an NFL.
He's not Aiyuk.
He's not Aiyuk.
Now, Brian Tom and also, I mean, Troy Franklin from Oregon, not a big fan of his. Devontae Walker of North Carolina, not a big fan of his. Drops the ball a lot. Jalen Polk from Washington, not a big fan of his. So, I mean, it's like, there are there awesome receivers in this draft? Yeah, but there's also some bust receivers. So if you make that trade and draft a bust receiver, you're hurting yourself dramatically. You better know how many. You better know. Last year, for example, there were 6 receivers drafted in the first round, 7 in the second round. You had 13 wide receivers drafted in the first 2 rounds. If we went back and looked at last year's draft, I guarantee you that we would only take a couple of those receivers,
right?
Probably straight up.
No, the trade, the reason why the trade's being considered is because of the financial situation the 49ers the 49ers are in. It's nothing to do with Brandon Aiyuk. The 49ers want to keep Brandon Aiyuk, but it's going to get expensive, and they're going to have to, they're going to have to figure this out. The problem with the trade is that it's just incredibly risky. It's such a risky move. But if you do it right, it's amazing because you get to kick the can on the money. You get a cheap player who can produce hopefully as much as Brandon Aiyuk for a fraction, like a real fraction of the cost, like only a few million versus 24. I mean, you're saving a ton of money. And if you go back and look at past trades, it's really boom or bust. It's like you look at AJ Brown when he left Tennessee to go to the Eagles. Tennessee was left with Treylon Burks in that trade, who's been a major bust, and now Tennessee is they're looking to rebuild.
Well, now they're paying wide receivers gobs of money,
right? So it's like they paid Calvin. It was Ridley.
Yeah, Ridley.
Yeah, they paid Ridley a fat amount of money, and then it's like you look at the Stephon Diggs trade where the Vikings traded him away. And no one ever talks about that because they used that pick to draft Justin Jefferson. So it's like, it's really a boomer bust decision, and you better be damn sure.
You better hit.
You better hit.
I mean,
it's real going to blow up in your face.
Here are the receivers that went in the first 2 rounds last year. Marvin Mims went to Denver at the end of round 2. Pretty good receiver, but he's not Aiyuk. Rashee Rice went to Kansas City at 55.
I like
good
him.
receiver, but he's not Aiyuk. Jaden Reed went to the Packers at 50. Good receiver. I'd rather have Aiyuk. Jonathan Mingo went to Carolina at 39. Good receiver. Much rather have Aiyuk. Who else? Jordan Addison went 23 to the Vikings. That one's a little tougher. I don't know. Would you rather have Jordan Addison or Aiyuk?
I mean, Aiyuk. I mean, it's hard for a receiver to be an all-pro player.
Zay Flowers went to Baltimore at 22nd pick of round 1. Would you rather have Zay Flowers or Aiyuk? Probably Aiyuk.
I mean, there's no one in that class I'd rather have over Aiyuk. There's no
Quentin
one.
Johnson went 21. You'd rather have Aiyuk. Jackson Smith Enigba went 20 to Seattle. Rather have Aiyuk. So there you go. Those are the receivers that went in the first 2 rounds of the draft last year.
I don't know if
So
you saw. Yeah,
there's
I
a
don't
lot
know.
of highly touted guys there, but only maybe 1 or 2 would even make you even think about it.
One interesting point I did see from Albert Breer, though, he had his mailbag today, and someone asked him about the Brandon Aiyuk situation. And his take on it was that he could see them moving Brandon Aiyuk, not from any of his sources, but just because you can make the argument that of all the key players on the 49ers, Brandon Aiyuk might be the only expendable one. Just because it's like if you lose Trent Williams, you can't replace him. You lose Bosa, you can't replace him. You lose Travarius Ward, you're not replacing him with anyone. Brandon Aiyuk is they have a lot of skill players on their team. He was making the argument that they could still make the Super Bowl without Brandon Aiyuk. So
interesting. As far as wide receivers they've met with, Jacarius Caston from Southern Miss. They met with him. Cam Johnson from Northwestern. They met with him. Hayden Hatton from Idaho. They met with him. Who else?
Well, I want to ask you
Xavier Legette, Luke McCaffrey, and Lad McConkey, and Bub Means and Jalen McMillan. They met with all those guys. Brendan Rice. They met with Brendan Rice. Brian Thomas from LSU. They met with him. Xavier Worthy. So they've met with a lot of the receivers that they could take a look at if they decided to move on from Aiyuk.
Now, just to switch topics here, on that topic too, the Niners obviously can take a wide receiver in this draft, and they may go that route early. One guy that they have met with that is really interesting is Malachi Corley. And the reason why he's interesting is because he's seen in this draft as like the Deebo Samuel of his draft. He's that kind of receiver. And especially with the Niners, salary situation, moving off of Deebo next year would be a better financial decision for the team. So you have Aiyuk's 5th-year option expiring next season. You could work out a way to keep Aiyuk next season, re-sign him next season, and somehow get rid of Deebo and replace him with Malachi Corley on his 2nd year. What do you think about Malachi Corley? And as you're doing that, I'm going to play his highlights right here. I made a little highlight for him so we can get it going for the people watching on YouTube.
I like him. I like him a lot. He's 5'10" and change, 215 pounds. Played for the Hilltoppers of Western for one reason. The Hilltoppers just wanted to get him the ball underneath and then let him do.
Can he run?
About Corley?
No, I'm talking about Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some development there for sure.
Yeah.
And this is why a lot of, college receivers don't come into the NFL. The whole reason the Steelers are interested in Aiyuk is that I'm sure Mike Tomlin's probably feels like he's got to win a playoff game one of these years. Right. And, they could draft Brian Thomas at 20, probably, if he's there. Or they could draft a good young receiver at 20, but is it going to take 2 years, 3 years for that player to really fulfill potential? And does Tomlin feel like he has, even though he's never had a losing season? He also hasn't won a playoff game in quite a while. And I don't know, maybe they're getting impatient in Pittsburgh. But anytime you're talking about a loaded receiver group and teams wanting a veteran, that tells me that they may get fired. Like Trent Baalke had to dump the entire defensive staff this year. Next year, if they don't make the playoffs, he's probably the one that has to go. So why is Trent Baalke interested? Because he knows he could draft an awesome receiver, but if that receiver's not really good until year 2, it might be with a new general manager.
Right. That is always an interesting thing because it's like, these people are human. It's like if that person thinks they're on the hot seat, they're going to do whatever they need to do to keep their job.
Right.
Last question here. So if you want to hop in the call weight room or the green room, do that right now.
Some callers in the house tonight. I see PDX. We got Ryan Crowley's in the house. Is it Mizell? Mizell looks like is in the house.
Uh,
We had 3 or 4 more before them, but we'll get to a few more. But go ahead, Kev. Do you have
yeah.
one more or no?
Yeah,
No
last
more.
question here. Last question
Yeah.
here. I just want to put a player on a spotlight. So, like I said earlier, didn't get a lot of time to do any deep dives on any of the players that they signed. I just kind of read the headlines, looked a little bit of the tape. I did a little bit of a deep dive today, and the first player that I looked at actually really interested me, and I want to put him on a spotlight, and that's Isaac. Did you say is it Yiadom? Yiadom?
Yeah. Yiadom.
Yiadom. Isaac Yiadom. Very interesting player from the Saints here. I'm going to share the screen. I put this tweet out today. I thought it was interesting. If you just look at his, so he didn't play last season. He didn't start for the Saints, but he did in the second half of the season. So he started for the Saints second half of the season. If you look at reception percentage, I just thought this was funny. Isaiah Oliver had the highest reception percentage allowed in the NFL at 90.2%. Obviously, the Niners cut him. He's not on the team anymore. But they signed Isaac Yiadom, who was tied for the fifth lowest reception percentage allowed at 50%. So it's a quality upgrade there. He also posted an 80.4 coverage grade, which was 16th amongst qualified cornerbacks. And, was a starting cornerback on the Saints, who had the seventh best passing defense in the NFL when he played. So I just think that this guy's a quality player. Obviously, I watched the film. He looked good. He doesn't have incredible long speed. He ran like a 4.5 coming out of college, which is not very fast for a corner. And he's 28 years old. He's been a journeyman around the NFL, but I think this guy adds great depth to the 49ers. What did you think about this pickup?
Well, I did a deep dive on this guy a couple years ago when maybe he was coming out of Boston College. And he's just, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like. I mean, he's long, he's rangy, he's cocky, he's confident. But, then it's, are you going to learn all the techniques and get better? And he really has. I mean, last year he put up impressive numbers. He was third in the NFL in tight window rate, according to Next Gen Stats. He allowed a 38.5% completion percentage on 39 targets. He basically gave up 15 completions and he had 16 pass breakups. So he was almost exclusively an outside corner for the Saints. And so maybe the Niners look at Lenore and say, you know what? We want Lenore inside in the slot. And this is a guy who's going to compete with Ambry for his spot outside. There's also Darrell Luter Jr. And Samuel Womack. And, he played 50% of the snaps last year with the Saints. And he was really good. He was among the top 20 cornerbacks in receptions. He was among the top 20 cornerbacks in yards allowed last year. He was fifth in the NFL in man coverage success rate. So I think this is a nice signing for the Niners. I know a lot of people don't know that name. He also played a lot of special teams, 267 snaps for the Saints on special teams last year. So he's a major player on teams. I just think it's about giving Ambry a competitor and trying to establish a competition at outside corner. And I think they'll probably get another guy in the draft to throw into that mix as well. And then they'll go to camp and let them battle it out, let them all battle it out. So I like it. I think Yiadom is, big and athletic and coming off a good year and can provide, and it didn't, he didn't break the bank. It's a 1-year deal. I think he's, the Niners like good size. The one thing about the 49ers is they've lost some of their run defenders, with some of the big DBs they've lost between Jimmy Ward and Tart and Mosley. And, now they get a good sized DB in Yiadom. And I'm eager to see what he looks like against the run. And just, if nothing else, if he makes Ambry Thomas step up his game and compete for his spot, that'll probably be a positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think he makes the roster. I think he's a good veteran. I mean, that's the one thing about the NFL. It's weird. The cornerback position is weird, where it's like there isn't that many options at corner. Like, you remember it was a couple years ago. I'm forgetting the name, but remember that year that they had no depth at corner and they had to start that guy from the street and they just went at him
Brian
all
Allen.
day. Yeah,
Oh,
Brian Allen. It's one of those things where it's like you're not going to find a player on the street in the middle of the season that's going to do something good for you. I mean, Logan Ryan wasn't horrendous, but he wasn't great for the Niners, and he was coming off a cruise when they signed him. So it's like, this is a quality
never a
depth.
good sign. Never a good sign. I mean, maybe that's a learning lesson. Never, ever, ever sign a football player coming off a cruise. It's just a bad sign. It's a bad sign.
No more cruise corners, okay? But yeah, no, definitely a quality depth position, or a depth piece for the 49ers at that position. I like the move. But yeah, just wanted to highlight that player. Before we go to the calls, do you want to give a little shout out to our sponsors, and then we'll go straight to the calls?
Sure. We are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code KRUEG, KRUEG, and they will match you up to your first $100. And let's not forget Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264 to fulfill all of your sports collectible needs. All right. Where do you want to go?
Let's go PDX out in Portland.
How's it going, guys?
What's up, PDX? How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm studying for finals too. Getting ready to get the quarter done with.
Where at?
Oregon State.
Oh, nice.
Corvallis. Do you like Oregon State? My other son just applied there, got in, and is
Jack
trying to
Coletto.
make up his mind. Jack Coletto went there. That's true.
So far, I've loved it. I mean, the campus is beautiful. And, I'm biased, but the Pacific Northwest in the summer is maybe the best spot to be in the world. Everybody else wins other times of the year, but in the summer when it's kind of like mild and there's lots of stuff to do, it's pretty amazing.
What is the weather in the Pacific Northwest in the summertime? What are we talking about? 70s and blue skies and high air quality and not a lot of rain, right?
Yeah. I mean, near the end of the summer, you're getting into your 80s and 90s, and it'll sometimes break 100. But it's pretty mild. So like low 70s to mid 80s most of the summer. And the thing that any Northwesterner would tell you is that it stays green, which is really nice. So it's not like all dried out like other places are that are hot year round.
We got you. What Niner talk you want to get into?
So, I got to thinking on your Patrick Surtain thing, and at first I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But if you think about it a little bit,
it grew on you like a fungus.
It did. It grew on me like a
All
fungus.
Right.
The first thing is the dude's only 23. So it's not like you're trading for a 26-year-old veteran that's not going to be on your team in 3 years, right? You'd be trading for a foundational piece. Number two, if the asking price really is just our first and our third, if you were to evaluate it in terms of draft points, it's a killer trade, right? Because he went 13th overall, so you're getting premium talent there, and then you're gonna have to make some hard decisions. So I did a mock draft, and I traded for him, and then I traded Brandon Aiyuk, basically recouping the picks, and you're essentially going to have to say bye to Charvarius Ward when his contract's up, but easier to bite that bullet. And he's got number one corner in the NFL potential, so it's like you'd have an elite player at every position or at every level. I don't know. It made sense to me because you can fit the money in by moving Aiyuk and all that stuff with, which is not necessarily what I'd want to do, but I think it would make sense.
It's funny. Low underscore the underscore truth 81 says, is Denver rebuilding? If not, why would they trade Surtain? Who's Denver's quarterback?
Jared Stidham.
Yeah,
Who
they have no
cares?
quarterback. Yeah, of course they're rebuilding. Yes. Is Denver rebuilding? Yes, Denver is rebuilding. So there's no doubt Denver is rebuilding.
But I mean, if they get a good quarterback in the draft, which they're going to get a quarterback, they're going to land one. Hopefully for them, they need one.
Well, I mean, from what I'm hearing, the Niners could probably get him for a 1, a 2, and a 3. Well, if you could trade a 1 and a 3 this year and next year's 2, there's a right and wrong time to trade for a veteran dominant player. And to me, they're in their right time. They're in their Super Bowl window. This is what the Rams did with Jalen Ramsey. The Rams got over the top. The Niners need to get over the top. And it's not about just getting a good player in the draft. They've got to get a good player in the draft that contributes to their winning next year. I mean, Trent Williams is not going to be here for that long. To me, the Surtain move is aggressive. And I'm not the guy who likes these moves, by the way. I'm a draft pick guy. I would rather invest in the draft picks and more over less. And I'm not a big trade for a veteran guy, but there is a right and wrong time to trade for a veteran. And the Niners' right time to trade for a veteran would be right now. Right now. I mean, they got to get back into this Super Bowl next year, and they got to win it. So that should be their urgency. And so to me, there's two things that I think the 49ers need to get done in the draft. They've got to get a number one, if they could, get a number one shutdown kind of a corner to go with Mooney and Lenore. So you don't have to lean on Ambry or anybody else for that matter. Get a true great third corner and rebuild your O-line. And I think if you do things smartly, where you spread out, let's say Denver does want a 1, a 2, and a 3, or let's say Denver wants, 2 2s and a 3, or 2 3s and a 2. You give them 2 picks this year. You give them 1 next year on a conditional deal, and maybe you trade back in a couple other spots in this draft to see if you can get a couple extra picks. But that's the route I would go. I would try to get Surtain and rebuild my offensive line. See if I can do it in one draft. I think it can be done. I've done a couple of these mock drafts. I really think they could get Surtain and really do an incredible job rebuilding their O-line.
You want to hear what I did? I have my mock draft up right now.
Sure.
All right. So I had him trading. So with the Pittsburgh Steelers pick, they got J.C. Latham. Easy. Who wouldn't love that? Instant starter, long-term, 10-year player. You're not thinking about it for a long time, which is what you want. I got Zach Frazier fell to me at the second-round pick. So
love him. I mean, to me, he's
a
dominating, franchise-changing type player.
It sounds like everything could get a lot better,
I mean, if you come out of this draft with J.C. Latham and Zach Frazier, man, your offensive line is worlds better than it used to be.
Yeah. I got Bo Brad from Maryland with the next pick, then Jalen Ford, then Mason McCormick, then Jared Wiley, then Jordan Jefferson, then George Holani, and I was filling it out with the late round picks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about some of those picks, but I'll say this. You got, in my opinion, the best guard, center, and tackle in a lot of ways for the Niners. Niners need a big-time right tackle with power, and Latham is going to be that. You got the best brawling tough guy center, and Mason McCormick. If you watched South Dakota State and then watched him at the combine, he was awesome at the combine, and he's a monster. Mason McCormick is a damn good player, and the kid Greenfield he plays next to is also a damn good player. But yeah, I mean, if you got those 3 offensive linemen, man, you're cooking. You're cooking.
Yeah, I mean, it can be done. And Surtain is not a win now move. Surtain's benefits you right now, but it is a long-term move because he's only 23.
I mean, I just think I think that it's a no-brainer. I mean, no one should be arguing whether or not the Niners should acquire It's whether or not the Denver Broncos want to do that, right? It's like Patrick Surtain is the best. It was one of the best corners in the NFL. If you don't want him, then you're just being an idiot, right? I mean, he's a blue chip corner. He's turning 24, I think, in a few days. Like,
look what happened in the Super Bowl. I mean, you got shut down. Debo was fine. Aiyuk was fine. Guess what? McDuffie and Snead were better. McDuffie and Snead were better than Aiyuk and Debo. So, I mean, maybe you learn your lesson there and you say, hey, let's you got a great cover combo, but you need a trio, and Surtain could be the best player in your secondary. I wouldn't do it if the Niners weren't in their window, but they're clearly in their window. So if you could get Denver to do it, now Kev's right. Who knows? I mean, Denver is rebuilding, and they should have all the interest in the world in that kind of a trade, but they may not. And you can't give all 3 picks in this draft. But if you could give 2 picks in this draft and 1 pick in the next draft and have it be a conditional deal, and you're getting Surtain, I mean, I'll tell you, you could start off your draft a whole lot worse than drafting a true number 1 corner who gives you just a 3 outstanding corners. And then look at the division. I mean, you got Puka and Kupp in the division. You got Lockett and Dockett and DK. You got, you're going to get through Detroit. I mean, they've got Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams. If you're going to get through Green Bay, they got a bevy of weapons. Hollywood Brown just went to KC. I mean, you better have some guys who can flat out cover if you're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, yep. I mean, he's got top 5 in the NFL potential, and
yeah, no doubt.
Like nobody on the 49ers roster has that right now, and you do that's, I don't know, it's a premium skill set. You want that, and
no doubt.
The 31st pick, you're not going to get somebody that good with it. It's very unlikely.
PDX, let us jump. We gotta get everybody in here tonight, man. Appreciate you up in Corvallis. Have a great night.
Peace.
Later, man.
Always good talking.
Ryan
PDX.
Crowley's in the house. What's up, Ryan?
What's up, Krug? What's up, baby Krug? I'm at the pizza shop today.
What's going
on? I've been listening to you a lot lately, like I always do. I'm just I wrote a bunch of notes for the past couple. I've been thinking for years since we signed Debo. I really hate this Debo-led offense against great DBs. I feel like it keeps everybody so close to the line of scrimmage, and it just muddies the pocket. It muddies any type of throwing lanes, and the fucking guy can't run routes. I never want to sign him just because he can't run anything but a drag or a quick dig so it's like I wish he was tradable this year, because then it would make perfect sense to sign Aiyuk for a long-term deal. Without losing our ass pretty much with the cap and everything. But I think we kind of have to sell. I think we have to sell Aiyuk.
Rye, your audio's a little muddy. Is there any way you can get your audio a little better?
Yeah, let me turn that.
Randall in the chat says the audio's a little muddy. You wish says the audio. If you can make the audio a little bit better. Yeah, we could hear it. We could hear you. I mean, I basically agree with you. And I think most Niner fans do as well, which is, man, in an ideal world, Debo would be the guy you'd move off of. Aiyuk looks like he's got more career left. Debo looks like, his body's not going to age great. But then you also got to remember that Debo is one of Shanahan's favorites. And Debo's also a guy that he gets everybody going. I mean, he's a tone-setting player. So he's a tough guy to move. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I love Debo, and I think that Debo is a major part of kind of what makes the Niners the Niners. He's part of their strut. He's part of their swagger. He's part of their toughness. He's kind of. But I hear what you're saying.
I would agree, but I don't think Kyle would like him as much if he found out what he was doing the 3 days before the Super Bowl for 3 days straight. And what he was doing with players at a strip club till 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, it's just I just wish, because
I hear that too.
That's true. I didn't know about that. Is that true?
I'm a Niners fan, and I took a
bet
I
didn't see him. I was there. I didn't see him.
Oh, you were at the Rhino?
No. I'm just joking. Kevin and I, we didn't run into him. No, we were at the Rhino.
I would love to get Surtain with our pick now, like you said. But I think we could trade Aiyuk after we trade for Surtain and then go get the tackle anyways and get the tackle and the DB. Like
which tackle do you want? I mean, it depends which tackle you want.
I don't know. Well, for the 20th pick, like if we trade Surtain for our 31st pick and a number 2, maybe a number 2 or 3 next year, you think Denver would take that? And then after we can then trade Aiyuk, pick up the 20th or 22nd pick, and then go get a right tackle or for the next 10 years. I think you said the 7. I mean,
personally, okay. So the way I would play this, I just did a mock draft the other day.
Yeah.
In my mock draft, I traded the first round pick. I kept the first round pick this year, but I traded the 2nd and the 3rd this year, and then a conditional 2 or 1 next year for Surtain. So I kept my number 1 pick, and then with the number 1 pick, I went with Zach Frazier, the center from West Virginia. I saw the film. And I thought, wow, man. I mean, there's a lot of good centers in this draft. Jackson Powers Johnson, Graham Barton, Cedric Van Pran from Georgia, Bo Limmer from Arkansas. But, man, Zach Frazier, if you watch some of the highlights, I mean, it was like this guy just buries people.
Yeah.
So I went with Frazier in round 1. Then I came back. I didn't pick in round 2. I didn't pick in round 3. So I didn't pick again until the 4th round. But in the 4th round, I went with who did I go with? I went with Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State. Now, I like Garrett Greenfield. And, you know, they've also, I believe, met with Gottlieb Ayadazi from Maryland. I really like him. Caden Wallace they just met with from Penn State. There's a lot to like there with Caden Wallace. Ladarius Henderson, Christian Jones, Javon Foster. These are all really good tackles that are not going in the first round. So, or maybe even the 2nd round. So I came away with the draft feeling like, you know what? I got Surtain and I got the number 1 center who could plug and play right now over Brendel. And I got a developmental tackle who could play maybe halfway through the year over McKivitz in Greenfield.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, now I didn't get a first round tackle, and there's a lot of people that are going to be unhappy if the Niners don't take Tyler Guyton or Jordan Morgan. But I just see, you know, to me, I'm looking at this and I see Alt is super special. Fashanu from Penn State, super special. Then you got the 2 guards, the 2 tackles in Fuaga and Latham. I think those are plug and play guys. Then you got the 6'8", 340-pound guy in Mims, and you got Guyton, who's a great run blocker. After that, I think there's a major drop-off. To me, those top 6 guys should go in the top 25 picks.
Yeah.
And then Jordan Morgan, Patrick Paul, Kingsley Sumatea, the Yale kid, Notre Dame's Blake Fisher, Javon Foster, Christian Jones, Rosengarten, all those guys. I think those guys are all like mid-2nd round down to the 4th round, and probably a few of them will get overdrafted. Yeah. But I'm comfortable getting, you know, the dominant corner and a dominant interior player and just one of those tackles that goes in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people want a first-round tackle, but I'm okay not going first-round tackle.
I hate that we're stuck so much with Debo because I feel like it's either him or CMC. And I like what you said halfway through the season with like spreading CMC out and getting Mason in there. I feel like the fact that nobody's getting enough touches to really have some sort of Hall of Fame style career and really develop into like a game-changing type player, except for the year when we had Jimmy G because we needed Debo to do fucking everything. And but it's like
they got a bunch of weapons.
Juwan came through in the Super Bowl, and so did Juice. I mean, I feel like they can line up Juice more in like the slot or like as a tight end or an off running back or something and get him on some Texas routes or on a quick out or let him block and release for a screen. We didn't throw any freaking screens. Like, it's like we have CMC, we have all these little gadget players that can get open with misdirection, and it's like we just do an end around with Debo or we throw a quick screen at Debo, and it's like he's got a pulled hamstring and we're sending him 12, 15 passes in the Super Bowl, and we can't get anybody else open because nobody's scared of him running a route down the field. They're scared of him catching the football.
And he wasn't healthy in the Super Bowl. I mean, come on. I mean, this guy, I asked Shanahan. I asked Shanahan going into the Detroit game, I said, what's the status of Debo's shoulder? And he's like, it's pain. He's got a lot of pain.
Yeah, I shouldn't have
But he
played.
wouldn't tell me what it was. So it was either fractured or bone bruise or torn labrum
A big
or
stripper
torn
on his
rotator
shoulder.
cuff or, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't 100%. And then for him to get as much, action at less than 100% just seemed bizarre.
Yeah, and Purdy seems to free up. Like he's kind of has that Brady effect where like he links up with whoever comes in. Like Conley had some pretty tough catches. Juwan Jennings steps in, which never sees the field unless it's third down. He comes in, makes some great plays. Juice is toe tapping the sideline. Kittle's not getting anything. It's like we have all this shit, and Brock Purdy could just throw to whoever comes in and make a play. So that kind of makes Aiyuk expendable a little bit if we have Debo and we can't get. But then we don't have the route running wide receiver. So it's kind of like we're stuck in between a rock and a fucking hard place. But the money is too much in wide receivers and tight ends and this. I understand some people are going to be gone next year, but I don't want to get caught up. We're going to pay Aiyuk. We're never going to throw him the ball.
How do you trade Debo after the draft when you're inside your Super Bowl window and you're not going to get, you're not going to realize whatever you get in return until next year's draft? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to trade Debo pre-June 1st, but it doesn't make sense to trade Debo post-June 1st.
But does it – I'm not wishing this upon him, but does it if he has another one of these injury-prone seasons just to get something? Yeah, because if he's just going to get injured from here on out, we're overpaying him just to sit on the bench for 6-10 weeks, and then by the end of the year, he's got another bone bruise, a hamstring injury, a knee injury, and he's not making it through the freaking end of the stretch anyways because he's been pretty injury-prone. So –
I don't know, man. It would be an awful bitter pill to trade that guy in June, middle of June, and then just try to say to your fan base, hey, we're trying to run it back and win the Super Bowl, and we just took away Debo for cap purposes, and whatever we're getting for him, we're not going to realize till next April. I don't know. That's a tough one.
I just think if you could throw Mason in there and let him get some touches with CMC filling in for Debo's slot running and drags, I mean – it'll save CMC throughout the year as well. I mean, there's so many things. I've heard you talk about.
I mean, let's just talk about that for a second. It's next year. Shanahan's got to do a better job at spreading around the touches, just so he gets to the playoffs with a. I mean, like they should have used Graham and Winters a few games this year, and they would have gotten to the finish line with Greenlaw, but they just didn't.
What about
they should have used J.P. Mason and Mitchell more. And so they would have gotten a fresher CMC come the Super Bowl, but they didn't. This next year, he's got to spread the touches around offensively a little bit better.
He gets such tunnel vision with Debo and CMC that it just, I can see like you could, and that's the thing with Debo doesn't fucking block. He doesn't like to, if he's not getting the ball, he's not in the game. It seems like. So that's like another tell on the defense. You can look at his route. You can see that he's not really trying, and he's not going to block, so we don't really have to worry about him unless he gets the ball at the line of scrimmage. Then it's like, fuck. But if you have guys that can lock down Aiyuk and take him out of the game, then you pretty much got us in a bind because we're going to go 10 passes to Debo at the line of scrimmage with an end around. We become very predictable, unless Kittle's sneaking out for a fucking seam pass or something. Then it's like, okay, now we don't know what to do.
I mean, Brock had a perfect dime to Debo on the seam route down the middle, and McDuffie was just right there all over him. That's my big concern with Debo is he doesn't get a lot of separation down the field.
And he can't jump ball and catch it. He's not a jump ball catcher. So, or he's not smart enough to like jump back into the corner, draw the pass interference. Not that they would have thrown in the Super Bowl anyways. They were giving him everything. But
my guess is that Debo's going to be here. Juwan's going to be here. And Aiyuk's going to get moved.
I don't mind that but we got to replace him with something. I get if we can get a big tackle that at least allow Brock Purdy to have another second or two in the pocket, then I'm not really worried about the wide receivers because they'll get open. Conley will get open. Juwan will get open. If he has an extra second to run a route, then it doesn't matter. But
they got to build a fortress around Brock.
Yeah.
Personally, the way I'd handle it is I would keep everyone and try to move off Debo next year, and pay Aiyuk the next year.
But then
you might not get a lot in return. You're not going to get a lot in return for Debo, but you're at least keeping Aiyuk.
The thing I hate about having Debo is it's so Debo centric. if Kyle would be like, listen, I'm only going to give fucking Debo 5 touches a game unless the game calls for it, and I'm going to make sure everybody else is getting into the game, I'm fucking fine with Debo on the team, even making the money he's making. But he just gets so hooked on fucking Debo that unless we're playing bad secondaries, it's like he doesn't go off.
Well,
it was weird. The Super Bowl was weird.
Debo's his way to scheme up a big play and keep the ball out of the air.
Yeah.
And so that's what he goes to Debo. But you can trust Brock to put the ball in the air. And then, then there's also McCaffrey's kid, brother. I mean, I think there's a very good chance they go for him in this draft. That would not surprise me. So it's going to be interesting for sure because they have a lot of money tied up in receivers and they don't throw it. They're 32nd in the NFL in pass attempts.
And Kittle's never going to make it to the Hall of Fame at this route. He has the potential to be better than Kelsey, but we don't get him the damn ball.
Yeah. I mean, and it'll be interesting to see what they do at tight end too, because, is Latou any better? Is Braden Willis any better? Warner's gone. Dwelly's probably going to be gone. They need another tight end, another good tight end in this draft.
I think Winters is going to be a great linebacker too. I really like.
Who is? Winters? I like
right?
Jalen Graham. I think Graham's going to be terrific. Yeah, I like Graham a lot. In fact, I was joking with Steve Wilkes. Yeah, I was, I said, hey, man, next year Graham's going to have a couple games that people are going to be like, where was this guy last year? That's how good Graham is. Graham can make tons of tackles and fly around. He's
number
instincts.
50, right? That's
number 50.
Yeah, that's
Detroit kid who played at Purdue, played kind of a hybrid safety linebacker role, and that's why Wilkes said that he wasn't ready to play. But man, I saw the guy in the preseason; he looked pretty damn ready to me. So, hey, Ryan, let us jump because we got a bunch of people in the house, but we appreciate you jumping in, man.
All right, take care.
Thanks,
take care, Ryan Crowley. Who do you want to go to next?
Does Mizale have a camera?
Mizale, do you have a camera, bud?
All right, we'll go back to him later.
Okay, we'll go back to Mizale.
Let's go to Ray Endeman.
Ray, how are you?
What's up, Larry? How's it going, man?
It's going great. You got the suit and tie on today. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling right now from the nice city of Santa Rosa, and I'm sitting here in the office working late.
What do you do?
Oh.
I work at a bank. I don't want to say which one, but I do work at a bank, and I am just sitting at the office working late and listening to you guys.
What do you do at the bank?
I'm in management.
Okay.
Yeah. I do my thing.
I used to be a teller at Wells Fargo.
Really?
It was the most in college. It was the most stressful job I've ever had.
It can't get stressful.
You never make it. You've never made it. You have to balance your drawer every single day to the penny. There's no residual benefit of being it's not like, hey man, I've been doing this for months. So what? If you're not absolutely perfect today, your drawer will not balance. You'll get dirty looks. And
you will get some dirty looks.
It was a tough job. Let's just say that tough job at the bank.
It's not an easy one, man, but it's all good.
I did learn one thing at the bank, and that is that never judge a book by its cover. The person that comes in that smells bad and looks bad and dresses bad, they've got $350,000 in their checking account. Then the next person who walks up and they've got, perfect, $1,000 suit and they've got bling and a Rolex and rings and they're negative $2.98 in their average daily balance. So you just never know. You never know. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Very true.
There you go. What's on your mind, man?
I'm listening to you. I'm, regular listener or watcher on YouTube. Also listening while I'm driving, and I know that you've been talking about the wide receivers and what are we going to do? Are we trading? Are we keeping? What are we doing? And looking at a couple options that the Niners have, I think that we should definitely move off of Aiyuk. Even though everybody likes him, he's a fan favorite. He's done, he's shown the flashes that he's capable of being a number one. But we already paid Debo. And I know people are saying, hey, Debo's not that fast. Debo can't make the jump ball. But did anybody watch the Cowboys playoff game from a couple years ago and see what Debo did to that defense? He juked the entire defense, not once, but like twice, and then scored a touchdown. And that was on a run play. So, I mean, he's got playmaking ability. I think that we should keep him, but we need to utilize him a little bit better than, what Kyle does. But Kyle's a gangster. If you don't follow Kyle's rhythm or what Kyle's doing on his vibe, I mean, look what happened to Aiyuk. He got benched, for all that time because he didn't want to fall in line. So I feel like sometimes that can cause a detriment to the team when he takes it that far. But he's old school. He's, that's the Mike Shanahan era. That's how it was with Bill Walsh. There are no nonsense, manager and their coach, and they're not going to take it, so it just depends no matter who the talented player is, whether it be, receiver or even a quarterback. But I think that the Niners should trade Aiyuk, try to get into the first round. If you can't get a all-star right tackle, with wherever they land and whatever the pick is, they definitely need to go center because, he's okay. They're all right. They could
Jake Brendel. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know it's not. I don't really think he's that great, but Brendel's pretty good. McKivitz could definitely be plugged into the center position. I know he was a guard previously and he's played center before. I know they got Zakel that, Lynch was saying, is taking snaps at center. I want to see what some of these younger linemen can do because I feel like some of them have potential. I mean, Poe, he's a beast. He's strong. So where's he at? But they haven't really given these guys.
He's out of there. He's
I know,
somewhere else now.
I just feel like they should.
He's not in the on the practice squad anymore. But yeah, I mean they have Feliciano, they have Zakel, they've got Brendel, they've got McKivitz. They've got a handful of guys that could all play the center spot, you would think. So, but I mean, I think they need a new center, a new right guard, and a new tackle. Now, maybe McKivitz can be that center, and then you just need two, but they need to redo their offensive line. Let's be honest. I mean, they got to build Brock Purdy a fortress and make sure that he's got time to throw it. If they can keep pressure off of Brock Purdy, I think he's good enough to win the Super Bowl with.
Now, I've heard you say Burford might be able to play at right tackle, but this was many moons ago, so I know this wasn't recent. But do you still think that Burford could get kicked out to maybe tackle and they might be able to go get a guard center in the draft and kind of solidify that line a little bit?
It doesn't seem like Burford is trusted at tackle. He played right tackle for University of Texas at San Antonio. But, and in a lot of ways, he's got the prototypical body to play offensive line in the NFL. He's got long arms, really carries a lot of weight in his legs, in his midsection. He's got an ideal frame. He's smart. He's hardworking. It just didn't happen for him this year. So, I mean, he's a depth piece. I mean, right now, I think him and Feliciano would probably be slated to share right guard.
Right. I mean, Feliciano played pretty good. I think he could earn a spot or should have earned the spot to be the starter this year, especially if they're going to re-sign him and give him the cash, even if it's not that much. Wide receiver wise, I feel like we could, even though I like Juwan Jennings, I really do like him. And I feel like the Niners need to throw him the ball more with, I think I heard you say it earlier today. He shows up in big game places. That's where he shows up. And he's not the fastest. He's not, the tallest or jumps the highest, but he's got hands, man. And I remember a receiver from back in the day that had some hands too, and his name was Jerry Rice. Not saying he's the same guy. I'm just saying, hey, Juwan's got some reliable hands, and in big games, that's what matters. And a couple of times, Aiyuk, he's dropped the ball. Debo's dropped the ball in big games. And they need someone that's going to secure the ball consistently, even in big games. And I also feel like, there's some guys that, we know, like Rice's son and McCaffrey's, brother. Why don't we pick those guys up in the draft, especially if they're not going to be first round picks or late picks? Why can't we get those guys and then move off of Juwan or Debo, or Juwan and Debo, or even Aiyuk and Juwan?
I mean, if you look at the Niners depth chart at wide receiver, it's pretty packed. They have right now, most teams keep 5. They have Aiyuk, Debo, Jennings, Danny Gray, Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, Tay Martin. So they have 7 right now on a team that probably is going to go with 5. So they're already pretty loaded. If they're going to go add Rice's son or McCaffrey's brother or anybody for that matter, they're either going to have to be day 3 picks that are just in camp competing against Tay Martin and Ronnie Bell and Danny Gray and Chris Conley, or you're probably going to, if they're day 1 or day 2 guys, you're probably going to have to move off of one of your top 3 guys, Aiyuk, Debo, or Juwan. So, most people, they're not. I mean, Juwan's the guy that played big in the big game, and he just signed. Debo's already signed. Aiyuk seems to not want to be a Niner. I mean, if I was just going off of what I'm reading, he's, throwing social media bouquets at Mike Tomlin and there's claims that his camp and the Jaguars are on lockstep. So it sounds like either the Niners have already exchanged figures with Aiyuk and he's anticipating a very acrimonious contract negotiation, or, the Niners are way beneath number-wise, and he's kind of mentally moving on. But it's like I always look at what people say, but also what they do. The Niners have said they love him and want him, but they've also been meeting with J.C. Latham and, Fuaga and guys that are going to go in the middle of the first round. So it makes you think that if nothing else, they are preparing to pivot if Aiyuk gets to a number they're not comfortable with.
I mean, he's probably already there. If you look at the wide receiver money market and how everything's going, I mean, it's not like he's going to want less. He's not going to want less, Larry. Nobody's going to say, hey, give me some less money. No, he's going to want at least a couple million more, because that's what they always want. Everybody always wants a little bit more so they can say they got paid the highest. Just like Jimmy G back in the day when he got paid the highest. And then now, you look at Mahomes and some of these other contracts, and now they're just, catastrophically, large. But I love
Aiyuk, but I'm not afraid to move him and find another receiver if his number is crazy. And I think you're right. I think it's very obvious that if Justin Jefferson sets the market, he could set it at 30 plus million a year. The guaranteed money market has already been set by what Ridley just got. So I think both those numbers are probably well beyond what the Niners are comfortable with. So I think the likelihood of a Aiyuk trade is probably pretty good.
What about drafting Gore's son with like a seventh pick, his 7th round pick?
I like him. I would do it.
He's small though. Small, right?
He's small-ish, but he's not small.
What do you think of his combine?
What's that?
What do you think of Gore's combine? Because he did a combine.
I didn't see him too much in the combine. I saw him bust away for a touchdown in the East-West Shrine game, where he just, he looked so much like Frank. It was unbelievable.
Running like his dad.
He's 5'8", 195. He's 5'8", 195.
He's 5'8", 200. But what was his dad? 5'10", 208? He's not.
Dad was a cannonball. He would just blast out of the line just sometimes, and it was awesome to watch Frank Gore. He was awesome, man.
I mean, the nice thing about Gore Jr. is I think you could probably get him either after the draft or late in the 7th round. As Kev said, he's a running back. He's 5'10", 200 pounds. He was first team all Sun Belt this year. I mean, he's a pretty good player. I mean, to me, I've never seen a son look more like the dad in my entire life. He looks his running style is just like Frank's.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think you could get him maybe after the draft or in the 7th round, no doubt.
Who's your favorite D lineman? Who's your favorite D tackle? Like who's the who am I thinking of? What's his name? Who's the Fridge Perry of the draft, if there is one?
There's a couple guys that I really like. I like Rook or Rororo from Clemson, who's 6'4", 295. I think he's from Lagos. The guy's a crazy looking athlete. He wore number 32. He moves like a much smaller man. To me, Ororo from Clemson is really good. Braden Fisk, who started off at Western Michigan, transferred to Florida State. At 6'5", 295, I think he's going to be a terrific player with pass rush and run stuffing ability. Love both those guys a ton. As far as like real interior guys, I kind of like McKinley Jackson from A&M, who's kind of a nose guard one technique. And then I like Michael Hall. I like Michael Hall from Ohio State. He's 6'3", 290. He was a redshirt sophomore, led the nation this year, I believe, in pass rush win rate at the tackle position. And he's just a monster. He's 290 pounds. He wore 51 for Buckeyes. Really good football player. Really productive.
Do you feel like Lynch wasted some of his money a little bit this offseason getting about, 6 of these 1 or 2 year contract guys when maybe he could have just went out and got a Joey Bosa to go with his brother Nick?
I really like Leonard Floyd. I think they just wanted to go with young and healthy and strong against the run. They lost a lot of good run defenders. And Floyd's a pass rusher, but I mean, Gross Matos and the other two guys I think are really good against the run. I don't have a huge problem with what they did. I didn't like the linebacker signing. I would have leaned towards the draft on that front. But overall, I kind of like what they've done.
What about some of the undrafted linebackers that we've had in training camp and stuff the last couple of years that have been really, really good? I know you've talked about a few of them. I forget one of the guys' name is. I want to say he's from like Florida State or something, but he's played really, really well. Hasn't gotten an opportunity. Do we really need to go to the draft or some of these other places? Maybe we can just give some of these young guys the shots. I mean, they got 2 good guys. I know Graham was one of them. I forget the other one, Winters. Last year, and
they're pretty. I mean, most teams are going to keep 5 or 6 linebackers this year. The Niners are going to have Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, and then they've got D. Winters and Jalen Graham. They got Curtis Robinson, special teamer, and then they added. They brought back Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles as a special teamer. They signed Ezekiel Turner away from Arizona. He's a special teamer. So I mean, I think they could use one really good linebacker and then hope that Greenlaw gets healthy and in a year from now returns.
Do you think they might maybe go steal an up-and-coming linebacker from another team like the Ravens or maybe even the Texans or the Gents, since they have connections there with Saleh and, D'Amico?
I think they've already gone with the veteran linebacker in Devondre Campbell, and now I think they'll draft one. I think they'll find one linebacker they really like in the draft. And I will say this, as somebody who's done a bunch of these mock drafts, to me, the value in this draft, if you say, where is the value in the draft? It's at linebacker. It's at linebacker. I mean, if you look on day 3 of the draft, you're going to find some really very good linebackers. Just give you a few of them. I mean, Darius Muasau from UCLA, tremendous player. I mean, really a good linebacker. Nathaniel Watson from Mississippi State was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Tyrese Knight from UTEP had the fastest 10-yard split of anybody in the country. Or at the combine at linebacker, he looked good. Trevin Wallace is a tremendous athlete from Kentucky. He's going to be there. Kalen DeLoach from Florida State. I think DeLoach is going to be a terrific linebacker. He's going to be there day 3. There's a bunch of guys. There's a guy from Ole Miss that's pretty damn good. There's a bunch of good linebackers. To me, the value in the draft is definitely day 3 linebackers. There's some amazing ones.
Do you think that the Niners really need another tight end? I mean, couldn't they just plug Juszczyk into the secondary tight end level and go 2 tight ends with Kittle? I mean, I don't know why they haven't done that. It's not like he can't catch the ball.
Well, he's short. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's short for a tight end. I mean, yeah, they need a tight end. They have Kittle. They have Cam Latu, who couldn't catch anything last summer. They have Braden Willis, who couldn't get on the field this year. And then they've got Jake Tungs, who's just a practice squad guy from Cal. They let go of Ross Dwelly. They let go of Charlie Warner. They need a number 2 tight end who can elevate and become a starting tight end down the road. So, yeah, they absolutely will draft a tight end this year.
Do you think they could find somebody in the late rounds, or is it going to be a high round, like a third or a second rounder or something like that, if they find somebody special? I mean, nobody in tight end has really popped off the charts, anywhere that I've seen in the media.
I'd go Mason Klein from Furman. He's my favorite. He's a basketball player. So, with who's also has, I believe, a mechanical engineering major. He's an athlete. He's super smart. That would be my guy. Ray, okay. I got to jump, bud. I appreciate you, man.
Pleasure talking to you guys. You guys have a great rest of your night. Have a great show. Thanks again.
Thanks, Ray.
There you go. The great Ray.
That guy's gonna be at the office for a while if he's just listening. How can he get the work done?
He had a lot of questions there too. All right, Lincoln Dixon's in the house. What's up, Lincoln? Oh, the mic. You got to unmute yourself.
You're muted.
You're muted. You're still muted.
Is your mic on the other one? You got 2 in here.
You got 2 in here. It's all right. Give you 30 seconds or so. Hold on.
We can
Lincoln
try
Dixon.
to go back.
Lincoln, can you hear us? You can hear us, but we just can't hear you.
Well, let's go to Mazail or Myzail.
All right, we'll put you back in the green room for a minute. All right,
Myzail.
Yeah, I'm here.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good. How you gentlemen doing today?
Yeah, no complaints. Where are you calling from?
Memphis, Tennessee.
Nice. Been there.
Memphis, Tennessee.
Beale Street. Been down on Beale Street. Been to Memphis.
Yeah, right here in the heart of the Dixie.
Summertime weather in Memphis is brutal.
Yes, it is, sir. Yes, it is. Summertime here. If you've never had sinuses and allergies before, if you ever want to experience it, come here. You'll find out what it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd probably die there.
So what's on your mind, man?
I almost did once. I remember.
Oh no.
Just one story. I lived in cold climates, Denver and Oklahoma, and different areas. Came here, and probably maybe about 6-7 years after we moved here, I got an impacted sinus congestion, and it felt like bones was breaking inside my head.
Oh, sounds terrible.
Drove to the hospital, and they basically just kind of gave me a shot and told me my sinus were impacted. Never knew what that was before, but that was it was horrible. I literally felt like somebody was in there just ripping and breaking bones inside my skull.
Oh, sounds terrible. So you want to talk a little ball, huh? What's going on? What do you want to get into?
Well, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't do the whole GM aspect of it, salary caps and over the last recent years, I stopped watching as much sports. I just kind of focus on the 49ers. Used to watch all the games and know all the players and everything. And, as I've gotten older, right now I have a lot of different things that I don't have the time to just stay as focused on all of that. So I don't really get into, who picks and people and trades and whatnot. But first off, Larry, I want to let you know I really like your show.
Thank you, man.
Probably one of the most very informative guys that are really up to date and things. I used to actually you were on the radio years ago, right?
Yep.
I
Still,
remember I
well,
used
I
to
still
listen to you
do.
on the radio.
I still do radio, but YouTube has been kind of my preferred spot in recent years.
Okay. Yeah, I remember I used to listen to you on the radio years ago.
I still do
you and a few
radio.
other guys out
I
there.
still do radio pregame on 95.7 The Game out here with the great Lorenzo Neal, the former fullback.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Radio is definitely a dying art form, and the reason I know when you can tell guys that did radio. It's in the voice.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. So you want to talk a little Niners? What's your feeling on the way the offseason's gone?
Well, I've liked it. I've liked the way the offseason's going. I'm a little disappointed that we couldn't find a way to keep Eric Armstead, but I also understand that with his plantar fasciitis, with his feet issues and everything, he was it was a time before he was gonna go downhill. That's kind of something you can't actually get surgery and get fixed, uh, kind of
Yep.
thing. That
Kind of
just
a chronic deal.
right. It's kind of like it's just really cramping up a lot. It's not really something you can just kind of pull out and put in or whatever, right? So, um, but I'm gonna miss him. Definitely gonna miss him. Uh, and his production. I'm a little concerned. As because like I said, I don't do the whole GM behind the scenes thing, so I don't know what these other guys look like and what they can do and what they'll be able to offer. But what I really wanted to talk about is uh Brandon Aiyuk
Okay.
and Juwan Jennings. I like Juwan Jennings. I really, really like Juwan Jennings. I think he's a very fantastic guy. I mean, he has showed up for us in a way that I think he is definitely deserving of what he got, the second round tender, uh, even though he's very underutilized. But what I wanted to talk about with Brandon Ayuk was as far as contracts go, and I understand that if you send Brandon Ayuk to any other team, he'd probably definitely most likely be considered a true number one wide receiver, utilized as a true number one wide receiver. But I think that I know for a fact that I've never heard anybody on this team that reports on the team. I think behind closed door, Kyle Shanahan says, look, there is no big eyes and little U's on this team. You are going to be utilized, but I'm not going to predicate an offense around you per se as being used like AJ Brown or different Chase Young, where you're going to get 15 targets and different things like that. If it works out that way, it works out that way. But I am definitely going to make use of one, my running game to open up my passing game, and two, I'm going to make use of every asset that I have available. You can't game plan to defend what you can't look on film and say, oh, well, he goes to this guy this amount. He utilizes this guy this amount, uh, which I think works better for the quarterback to be able to utilize what he sees on the field versus just running a scripted play.
He
right?
likes to spread it around. You wonder if he had a Jerry Rice, or a Jamar Chase, as you mentioned, it would he feed that guy repeatedly? I don't know. Is Shanahan the way Shanahan is, and he's surrounded himself with weapons like this, or is this Shanahan? He feels like they've got an evenly distributed group of guys, and he just wants to move it around. I don't know if they had that awesome player. They used McCaffrey an awful lot this year. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But The previous Super Bowl, Debo had a great first half and then barely touched it in the second half. So, I don't know. It's hard to really decipher, what Shanahan is. He had Julio Jones in Atlanta. He had some really good backs there. They ran it a lot. It's a run first scheme with a play action pass element off of it. And it seems like the runners come before the receivers at the
Very much so.
trough. Yeah.
Very much so.
Which is
Larry.
why it's crazy that they'd spend $76 million on their receiving skill players.
Right. It does seem odd.
I don't think so though. I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy to spend that kind of money on your receiving core. And here's why. You want a good receiving core. One of the things that you want to do in this offense that I see with Kyle is you're always going to keep people off balance. You're still going to have to pay people regardless. And you definitely want to make sure you got the good talent. But you also want to incentivize them to come over here and realize that you'll be a name, but you won't be the star. Right? Wherever LeBron James goes, LeBron James is the star.
In the NFL, though, teams like to use their money. And if you pay Aiyuk a ridiculous $30 million and you're throwing him 3 balls a game, there's going to be a lot of people that question the wisdom of that.
But guess what? Who cares?
I mean, there's that. I mean, as long as you're winning, all that matters is that you win.
Right.
But they haven't been able to climb to the top of the mountain.
Okay, now just from the aspect of a person that has lots of money, what do I care what you think about where I spend my money? If I feel like I'm utilizing my finances how I want to, so what I buy a 150-inch TV that I watch only once a week? I wanted it. I bought it, and I'll use it how I want to use it. You can't tell me, and that's the problem.
But the players care. The players want to be utilized more. I mean, like Aiyuk's going to want the ball more.
He's going to want the ball more.
He's going to want the ball more. I mean, obviously, you want to build stats so that you get paid. And if you get paid without the stats, I guess so be it. But ultimately, teams try to, get their money to touch the ball in the big situations.
That really goes back to what I said earlier. You're not going to get that here. You're not going to get a system devised around and say, okay, you're the number one quarterback, you're the number one wide receiver, so I'm going to make sure I distribute the ball to you more. That's not Kyle Shanahan's system. Now, if the way that he uses his running back, Christian McCaffrey, if anybody should get paid the money, it should be him, because he's not only he's utilized in the pass blocking, he's utilized in the passing game, he's utilized in the running game, he's utilized as decoys for different plays for different people. I remember seeing a couple of plays where he insinuated in just in his body gesture and his movements that the play is coming to me. Throwing his hand up, clapping his hands, doing different things to draw attention to him, even though the play was not designed to go to him. So if anybody should get the real paycheck, it should be the running back that is being utilized in every facet of the game. Whereas, being honest, Brandon Aiyuk is either going to be a decoy as a receiver, he's going to block when needed, and you're gonna get some passes and some play designs that are designed to go to you. However, on this team, there is no big eyes and little U's. On this team, you are not going to be featured as the guy that's going to get 15 targets a game. Just understand that, because what I like about Kyle Shanahan is this is the ultimate team sport. So I'm sorry that you're not going to be the featured guy. But let me ask you something, Larry. I don't have my glasses on. Kevin,
Yep.
let me ask you something. Does everybody in the league know who Debo Samuels, Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle, Juszczyk, Christian McCaffrey? Does everybody in the league know who these guys are?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there any team that faces our team like other teams? For instance, where Lamar Chase, the receiver, right?
Right. Jamar, yep.
Okay. We hear his name all the time. What about the other receivers on the team?
Higgins.
T. Higgins. Yeah, I mean, Higgins
Tyler
gets
Boyd.
balls, but
He gets
yeah, I
balls,
mean,
but for as far as it goes, and I mean, like again, there's on other teams you know of. Okay, so like Seattle Seahawks, you got Metcalf and you got the other young dude over there, the
Lockett.
receivers. But what about their tight end? What about their slot receiver? You don't even hear about these guys. So I mean, for people that are really in depth in the sport knows it. But for the casual fan, you only know of the guys that you hear about, and all the other guys will go by the wayside. But this is the only team that I know of that everybody, if I go anywhere and say Brandon Aiyuk, people gonna be all like, "Oh, I heard of that guy."
well, he's an all-pro receiver. I mean,
Right.
he's an
George
all-pro
Kittle,
receiver.
I heard of that guy.
Yeah.
Debo Samuels, oh, I heard of that guy.
These guys are all Pro Bowlers, you know, and these guys
Right.
have been in the Super Bowl.
Now,
So I mean, they just have a tough call. I mean, this is gonna be a tough call. Do you pay your receivers, even though that you're a run first team? And if you do, what do you have limits? You know, it's a hard cap, so you have a limited deal that you can do. I mean,
but
they're
isn't
gonna
that
have to
kind of
make
more just
they're gonna have to make tough
market predicated?
decisions. Yeah, it's not like it's you know, there's no you know, malfeasance here. There's no you know, there's nobody to blame per se. It just is what it is. You have a hard cap, you have only so many guys, you got to spread your money around. They got a lot of money tied up in wide receivers on a team that runs the ball a lot. So they just got to kind of figure it out. I mean, they can have any one player they want. They can also have any one season they want. If they want to have these guys all together for the season, they can. They can break it up next off season, but the odds of them going long term with Jennings, Debo, and Aiyuk are probably not good. Probably not good.
I get what you're saying. Okay, now I put that all together because basically what you're saying is, you know, market wise, guys are going to be looking for a certain kind of thing once they've kind of achieved certain kind of things, and market wise, you kind of have to pay them based off the market, not really based off production, but kind of based off the market, which with Brandon Aiyuk, here's the funny thing about it, and this is why I think that the issue of paying him and not paying him becomes a problem. Because the thing with Brandon Aiyuk is, well, you don't get the same amount of attention production-wise as some of these other top-tier players. However, your production still comes out to be what they're producing. He had 1,300 yards receiving this year.
Yep.
He had what was his percentage of catch versus drop ratio? I think he caught significantly more than he dropped.
He had a very good year. There's no doubt.
Right.
And a lot of fronts. So now it's just a matter of, do you pay him? Can you pay him? Do you trade him? You know, it's like they got to make a decision. Hey, Mizell, we got to jump, but we appreciate you jumping in, and have a great night. Let's take one more before we end this, and it's Lincoln Dixon who will try to get back on here. Lincoln, how are you?
Aloha, guys. I'm trying. This is just so classic. Can you
Where
hear
are you
me?
calling from?
Yeah.
Hawaii.
That's right. You've called us before.
Anyway,
we got you. I
might die, but
we're all gonna die at some time.
Well, it's okay. We're ending soon. What's your quick take?
Well, I had a few. One, Larry, I happened to
Yes.
catch it the other night when you blew the gasket. I loved it. That was the stuff. Because anyway, you know
Which time? Because I blew a gasket a couple times. Was it against Starks, who said that I was a Shanahan fanboy? That one?
Yeah, probably, because I wrote down in my notes, I called you a Krugy Shanny liquor. So I think that'll put. Now I don't believe that. I don't believe that, but I was like, oh, that's good. I want to give you a trigger, but no, I don't. I know you don't believe that. Hold on.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Anyway, here's my. I've got anyway. That last call was awesome. I love that guy. That guy was talking a lot of truth. But I don't want to go there. I just had a couple funny takes, especially because it's at the end. But one, we just and I've been wanting to say this to Grant for a hot minute and to all y'all, but you're here and you'll listen. And Grant knows it. We just let the best right tackle since Trent Williams was playing right tackle go. And his name is Eric Armstead. Now, I don't know why Lynch never talked him into going over there and playing it for, say, $20 million, but he's easily my best right tackle ever on the Niners. So anyway, that was my hot take. I also just wanted to say you guys are the best.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
You bet. And
these are some great takes. These are great takes.
Well, yeah. I mean, gee whiz, we don't talk about this. Okay, one more. I mean, you guys do, and God bless you guys. Yeah. I mean, the truth shall set you free, said somebody. And, he maybe got it from somebody else, but God bless his son and everybody else. Anyway, I was thinking, again, back to when people talk about how much, and I don't think they talk about it, I think they prove it, but how much the 49ers spend on their defensive line. Here's my last point in Cuckooville is why don't we just forget how much we spend? How about we just let the guys that don't make the defensive line all go audition for the offensive line? Because again, back to my original, you know what I'm saying? Like, wow.
I mean, if it was high school or college, maybe, but in the pros, something tells me you would get a call from their agent saying, excuse me.
Amen, Larry. You know that.
Drake Jackson prefers to play defensive end, but thanks.
Thank you. And yes, you're right. You're right. I get a call from their agent. So I don't want to talk to their agent. I want to talk to Eric Armstead and say, Eric, the reason that we haven't won Super Bowl since Trent Williams got here isn't because you didn't play defensive tackle. It's because you didn't play offensive tackle, bro. And you would have been healthy there. So shout out to all other massive superstars on the defensive line at the Niners or so. Well, then play offensive line because we could use that. There it is for Larry.
I think you're right. I think you're right in that he would project to be a very good offensive lineman. Of course, it's never going to happen. He's made his choice, but yeah, Oregon, the people at Oregon probably should have made him an offensive lineman at some point because he would have.
Well, hold on. Let me back up. I assume you know this. I thought you taught me this. Eric Armstead coming out of high school, right? Yeah. He was the number one player in high school at right tackle, offensive line, right? I got that from you.
I think that's very likely. He's built like an offensive tackle, but if you can move on defense, they put you on defense, and
I hear you. Hey,
he's a far better player now than he was in college.
Yes, you're right. You're the man, by the way. You are the man. But I came in to complain with just conspiracy theories about why the Niners don't play their best players. And that was my biggest complaint. I got, cornerback. Yeah, we got Luter in them. But I think Armstead, to me, never, ever should have been on the D line. Not because he couldn't do it. And he did do it massively for like 3 years straight. But he could have been like Trent Williams. He could have been just
I don't think there's any doubt.
You're right. He was an offensive tackle in high school at Elk Grove from Elk Grove,
and he was the number one recruit in like everywhere. He was the man. So anyway,
24th ranked recruit. Yeah.
Well, Lincoln, you got a final thought on your way out?
I do. I think pig in a pickle sounds tasty to me if I'm going to Northern California, but I think you guys do the best job around, and God bless you and keep it up. I love you guys. Thank you.
Lincoln. Have a great
Thank
night, brother. Appreciate you. Man, a lot of good talk.
That was
tonight.
one of the better takes we've had in a while.
That Eric Armstead should play O-tackle. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
agree. Derek says, what happened to Danny Gray? Danny Gray's just been hurt. Can't get on the field. That's really it. Samuel says, Larry and Kevin, do you guys think we need to get a shutdown corner like Deion Sanders in 94 when we won it all? I do. I really do. I think the 49ers have had a dominating corner every year they've won the Super Bowl, and I think they could use one. And we got this one from Jamie. He says, Krug, do you even watch any Georgia games? Lad McConkey is a 4.39 40 guy, and clutch as they come. Oh, yeah, played for the best team in the country the last 3 years when he was featured. So, well, he didn't score any touchdowns. I mean, he played a lot of games. He had 30 catches on the year. He only scored 2 touchdowns all year. He only had 100-yard game. It was against Florida all year. The rest of them, he had multiple games with 1 catch. He's 6 feet, 185 pounds. He's a good slot receiver. He did go to Indy and run 4.39, so he's definitely got speed. But the production, if you look at his career, he caught 31 balls in 2021, 58 balls in 2022, and 30 balls in 2023. So he's never really been like the true number 1 receiver. I like him. I just don't like him in the first round. If I could get him in the 3rd round, I'm all over him. But I'm not taking him in the first round.
I was shocked.
2 touchdowns all year.
I was shocked when he was that high. I think he's a good player, and I actually like him like as a prospect for the NFL. He's really quick. Like not like he's straight line fast. He's 4.39, but he's also just like you see him snap his routes. He snaps those hard. And I think he definitely
he's a good
can get
football
open.
player.
He's a good possession receiver, good slot player. He's a good football player.
He's quicker than you think. He's a good football player, but not in the first round. Armchair Quarterback 1 says $10 super sticker. Thank you, Armchair. All right, that's going to do it for us. An hour and 47 minutes in and out. Kev, you got a final thought?
Go Niners. No, I have no final thoughts.
That's it.
Have a good night, everyone.
Go Niners. Have a great night. Check us out tomorrow. I'll have the big show with Jesse and Vish going tomorrow. Damon on Friday. Chase Sr. on Friday. But until then, we're out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Can't